guys, cool. Thanks for coming. I'll be joined up here shortly by Daniel and Seth, and they're going to go through a demo. It's a demo. I mean, you haven't seen this exact one before, but you'll see a theme where we're doing kind of a augmented generation. This time we're going to use prompt flow. So you kind of saw the more wizard view earlier, but it should be exciting. But that said, you can pretty much do anything you want. We've been focusing on this kind of retrieval pattern because it's very popular, but you can put any APIs in there you want to. So keep that in mind. Also, I'm going to go super fast. They're going to go super fast. I apologize in advance, but it is sort of like an advanced session, so I'm trusting that we can play it in slow-mo later or something. So I'm sure you've heard these foundation models are really popular. They kind of took everyone by storm. I would say it really started to get crazy maybe last summer to last fall, and it's just gotten more so as we've moved across into things you can do practically. And one common theme is that the place to do these is on Azure. So I think that's super awesome since I work for Azure. And another really cool thing about it is it really hits all industries. I mean, there's some things that all companies have, like call centers and stuff like that, and knowledge bases. But even if you get into the specific verticals, you see a bunch of problems that are solved much better by this technology than previous technologies. And I should say I'm a fairly long-term machine learning person, so when it came out, I'm like, it probably doesn't really work. I mean, we kind of hype stuff up a lot. And then this one started to work, and I was like, wow, this thing really works. And it just kept getting better from there. I mean, we probably have time. Anecdote. So I got an Android phone, and I've been an iPhone user for a while. For no particular reason. I used to be a Windows phone user, but things happen. And then I got an iPhone, and then the whole family had iPhones. But anyway, I got an Android phone, and I can't type on it. I honestly cannot type on it. Every time I go to hit spacebar, I hit B. And I went through all 4 of the keyboards, and then my options were like learn Swift key, which I know it's a Microsoft product, but it's too fandangled for me. So I wrote my own keyboard. And it took me probably like 8 hours to figure out Java again, and you're just typing Java forever for like one line. But anyway, actually calling ChatGPT to do all the spell correction, and you could do spell correction like the whole thing. You just highlight the whole thing, send it to ChatGPT, and have it come back, and it works. And you don't have to worry about, in regular spell correction, you type the first letter wrong. It's like, I don't know, it doesn't know what to do with that on a phone. But anyway, so it's actually quite amazing, the technology. I want to call out one company in particular we've been working with called Azure AI. It's a great example of being able to scale this technology. Right now, they're doing over 400,000 news articles a day where they take all this information, they glean insight from it, and then they can have like company profiles on a daily basis, like what's the health of the company, how are they doing against their competition, and stuff like this. So really interesting competitive analysis tool. Yeah, super cool, and just their ability to scale on Azure has been amazing. Okay, so it gets a little confusing, all the Azure AI stuff we have, but when you think about it, think of this layer cake. At the top, we have a bunch of services that are sort of like a business function almost, like they kind of solve a problem for you. In the middle are these cognitive services that are models, sort of models as a service. And at the lower layer is Azure Machine Learning, which is the platform. All this stuff is built on top of Azure Machine Learning, and we have a set of tooling and APIs and interfaces where you can build directly on Azure Machine Learning. And of course, this all sits on AI infrastructure. So you'll hear things like AI and AI Studio. It's kind of the collection of this stack. You'll hear about these throughout the week. I just want to call them out real quick. So Azure OpenAI service updates, deploy on your own data. That's this sort of enterprise chat GPT that you've been seeing. With just a few clicks, you can kind of get something up and running. Really cool, fantastic work by the team. The next one is a new SKU we're coming out with. I'm really excited about this because you get sort of dedicated bandwidth or dedicated allocation of tokens per second or something like this. So that'll be awesome. And the third one is the plugin service that you guys have been hearing about. And you'll continue to sort of improve your understanding of what you can do with that over the course of the week. In Azure Machine Learning, what we've been doing is we've taken this platform that has been fairly well established in traditional machine learning and DNNs and stuff like that, and sort of adding in capability for generative AI application development. And what you'll see today in prompt flow is really, how do you orchestrate this fairly complex business logic? Like a lot of times they'll show an example, and it might be like a 3-step thing. But in practice, once you get going, it often gets more complicated than that. You have multiple data sources. You want to, let's say, filter or post-process the data coming back from an API call, all this kind of stuff. So we'll go through that today. But it's not just prompt flow. It's sort of native support for any model that you want and what we call the model catalog. But we have a bunch of OSS models in there. That goes live this week. The ability to deploy this to an endpoint, to put responsible AI in it. There are a bunch of different ways you can do that. We have some really cool dashboards that you'll see later today. I really encourage you to go to that session. And of course, once you deploy it, because it's on managed inference in Azure ML, it scales like crazy. And you can monitor it. You get like specific monitoring that's out of the box for LLM applications, like how many tokens am I using and stuff like that. So really excited about that. But you know, let's see if we can get to it. If we can bring Daniel and Seth up here.
All right. Here we go. We don't even get like walk-on music or anything.
Oh, dun, dun, dun,
oh
dun,
yeah!
dun, dun.
Hey, your computer's locked here, Greg.
Hey Seth, how's it going?
You gotta get it.
Actually, I should probably leave.
No, but you gotta unlock your machine, man. Yeah. This is my boss, and I'm using his machine, so
All right.
I'm pretty excited. All right, so what are we doing?
Okay, Seth, why don't we start this off with a little challenge?
Okay.
Can you explain in 3 minutes how LLMs work and what RAG is? It's been kind of all over the keynote, but I don't know if that was kind of.
Are we going to time it at actual 3 minutes?
Yeah, I got like a timer here.
3 minutes.
Okay, there you go.
Large language models, all they are. I'm going to go into TED Talk mode and use my hands aggressively. All large language models do is they take a fixed amount of tokens or words and they retrieve the next single likely token. And they do it in a loop. That's it.
3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes. Okay, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's like.
Okay.
That was kind of.
So that's the first. So if it returns the next n likely tokens, what you put in the first tokens before you send it to the model are soups important, to talk like the kids do today. Is that how the kids talk today? Soups important. What you put in the prompt is super important. So I thought I would do a demo of, because you and I obviously are singers, and we like the Eurovision Song Contest. So let's go to my machine right here. Are we seeing my machine? Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this prompt to say something else, okay? And I think I still have it on the clipboard. There we go. So this is what I'm changing the prompt to. Continue. You are an AI assistant that helps people find information about the Eurovision Song Contest. And you're from Germany, right?
Yeah,
how'd they do this
it's a bit of a sore point.
Okay.
So I scored 25th out of 25, I think.
You answer concisely and with whatever information you know. If someone asks a question related to anything else, say salsa. We're going to be using GPT-4. And I'm going to ask it, who won the first ESC? Because, I didn't even spell it right. Who cares? It's a language model. Who won the first Eurovision Song Contest? Boom, Switzerland. Okay. Who won ESC in 2023? It doesn't know. Why doesn't it know? Because the model was trained before 2023. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put information into the prompt to help us out. So how do you make a new tab? Is it Control-T? I don't know.
You can press new
tab. Oh, press
there.
new tab? Gosh, you're making me look dumb in front of me. Eurovision Song Contest 2023. Let's click on that goodness here. And I'm going to I'm just going to copy all of this here. Control-C. Let's go back to the playground. And I'm going to say, this is what you know. Goop. I don't know why I'm making noises, but I feel like we need to make a computer noise. So I'm going to say, who won ESC in 2023?
Sweden.
Do you see that? That is effectively RAG. Retrieval, augmented engineering. It was an artisanal way of doing it. You know, artisanal, handmade. What should I put on my tacos? Am I over? Oh, no!
You're done.
Hold on. What should I put on my tacos?
It worked.
It worked. Is that helpful?
I've not seen that work before. We
Thank you.
actually rehearsed this.
By the way, this is a real thing. This isn't like a videotape like we had in the 90s. I always say videotape. That was weird. Okay.
I haven't seen a tape in a while.
Okay.
Okay. So now that we know what a RAG is and how LLMs work, why don't we kind of go into our demo where we actually show the app that we built?
Cool.
So
let's go to Daniel's machine here.
What we did is, do you want to switch over there?
Oh, what is it? Is there 11? A button? 11. Okay.
I think so. Yes.
We did it.
So since it's the era of the Copilot, I think I counted Copilot in the keynote. I don't know. I stopped counting after like 30 or something. So there's a lot of Copilots around.
A lot of Copilots.
And obviously the assumption is like, hey, how do we build one? So we wanted to build one as well. That's what we did.
So I'm
like
going to log in.
Actually too. And so this one is for this outdoor company called Contoso. And the Copilot is helping the customer service agent to help the customer during a chat interaction, right? So, and Seth he's on his machine right now. He sees this.
Yes.
And I'm on my machine. I'm the customer service agent, and I'm waiting for Seth to log in.
I tried to. You might have to reset it, man. I'm sorry.
Okay, so
sorry, we left it up here, and now it took a nap. Oh, look, there I am.
There he was, and then he left.
Oh, man. Okay.
Do it again.
So let me do it again. Let me log in as Seth here. And there I am.
He is. Okay.
I'm in.
So the first thing that this app shows me, and that has got nothing to do with AI, is like, okay, Seth is logged in on his website, or on our website rather, and with his user, and so we know who he is, how he looks, also where he lives, and we have his recent purchases, right?
That's
so
right.
we know what he bought. So when he asks us a question, we can kind of make a connection to what he bought and what the question might be in regards to.
Should I ask the question?
Exactly. Go ahead.
Important question here.
Important question. I'm planning a trip to Patagonia. Will my sleeping bag keep me toasty warm?
Yeah, that's an important question, because I don't know where Patagonia is, but it feels like it could be cold.
Yeah, it's in the southern tip, kind of South America, sorry. Okay, so we got two things that the Copilot is now doing for me. First, it infers an intent. So what does a customer want to do here? They have a product question. They could also want to like return a product or something. So, and then if it's in regard to a product, then please kind of identify which product it is, right? And give me some information on that product, and that's what's happening over here. And that's where the retrieval part comes in that we talked about. Like, so the product, the Copilot is actually retrieving that information, and it's showing it to the person, to the user firsthand. And then secondly, it is going to use that information to craft a good reply. And in this reply, it's saying, well, the Cozy Night sleeping bag is rated for 3-season use and has a temperature rating of 20 Fahrenheit to 60 Fahrenheit. And is that correct, actually? Yes, it is.
Oh.
Because if you look down here,
yes.
You can see, can I zoom? Yeah, you can see that the sleeping bag is indeed, that the information is indeed correct.
Yeah.
So I can now return this to you, so you actually get the reply.
Oh, hi. No, I have another
and
question.
Then, you know, the chat continues. What do you have next? Oh, so super nice. What about my compass? How can I use that?
Yeah, let's see what,
Another product question. Now it's about the compass. Okay, the Pathfinder compass is a great tool for navigation, and so on and so forth. So that's kind
it works.
That is our Copilot.
And this is an actual Copilot that's actually helping someone with their job. Because I could, in theory, log in as someone else, and there could be other. You see what I'm saying? And so it's a Copilot that helps. So how do we build such a thing?
Yeah,
Daniel.
So let me kind of go into a little bit of detail.
Let's do it.
So actually, I had like one slide here first to kind of, in case you didn't kind of fully grasp how this RAG thing works. User question comes in. The first thing that happens in that RAG, retrieval augmented generation, is the retrieval part. So usually there's some search. In this case, we had to kind of find out what the product was, and then we go to in cognitive search and find out some information about the product. And then we stick that into the prompt, just like Seth did with the stuff that he like pulled down for the Eurovision Song Contest from Wikipedia.
That's right.
Only we're going to our product database, and we stick that into the prompt, and then ask the user's question, like pass the question of the user just right into that prompt as well, and say, that's what the user wants to know, and here's what you know. And then the large language model comes back with the result. So in a little bit more detail, if we kind of break it up, like how exactly did we build this? So you see the same kind of components. There's only one thing that's happening at the beginning. First, that is this find intent thing. So we got like a 3-step flow here, right? Find the intent. And we use ChatGPT in order to find out what the user actually wants and which product they want to refer to. The second one is we just go to cognitive search with that product ID that came out of that question, out of that first call. And then we did a next call, which is the actual RAG call, where we actually do get the answer that we want to.
And if you've noticed, the first one was just as simple, we inject search results. Now we're injecting more, because if that principle works with just documents, it should work with a whole bunch of other information as well, right?
Exactly. What's also to be, so why do we have this intent there? Well, sometimes people ask about products, then we go to the product database. Sometimes people ask about opening hours for stores, then we actually go to our store directory and like we have like a different set of data that we want to pass in. That's why it's kind of interesting to be a bit more, sophisticated in this case.
Yeah, that's what the word they use to describe me sometimes.
Beautiful.
I don't know where, but okay.
Shall we look at the code?
Let's do it. So I want to look at how this is actually built.
Yes.
Okay.
So in order to build this, I used LangChain, which is a popular open source framework. It helps you to abstract from different types of LLM providers, and it has a bunch of components for building agents and tools that you can plug in. So it's very useful, and it's quite popular. So and using that, I'm just basically building out those 3 components that I have, like the customer intent, the product search, and the product RAG as 3 different Python files here. And you can see here this customer intent just takes in the customer info, which comes from the website, and then the chat history, which is basically all the conversations, the back and forth we've had so far. And then with the last one being the question of the user, that's to be answered, right? And all we do here is we got these templates here, and these templates are basically those, the things that it's all about. The
prompt.
The prompt, yeah. Exactly. All that's happening here is like, okay, let me find the connection to the model that I'm calling, the large language model in the back end in the cloud, and then I'm going to basically, I'm building a prompt, and then I'm stuffing this data into the prompt and run it. And
so this is standard LangChain.
That is standard LangChain.
Okay.
And in the end, I get a reply back, which is, of course, some text. I'm asking the model to return some YAML, but it always doesn't always kind of give me YAML back, so I have a pretty robust parsing function that kind of doesn't crash when the data isn't fully well formatted.
So there's like layers around what the model returns, both on the input and the output.
Exactly.
Smart. Okay.
So, and then the second thing here is just a product search. It really just takes the item number in and then goes to the cognitive search to look for that item number and give me back what's there. If it isn't a product item, that's kind of the thing I mentioned. If there's no product item because the intent is somewhat other than the product-related content, I'm just giving back some general information.
Interesting.
Right? So that's what's happening here.
Smart.
And then this one is the product RAG, and that one just looks very similar. There's just more information now. I'm passing everything I know. What's the current date, and who's the customer, what have they ordered, and all the information that I've basically gathered along the way, and just sticking it all into the prompt and run another chain, like another request to the.
So it's like 3 different parts of 3 different LangChains working together as friends,
Exactly.
Cool. All right. Well, can we see it run?
That's how it works. And I think one thing, Seth, you might have realized is there isn't a whole lot happening in this Python.
Not really.
Right?
I actually looked over the lines of code, and it really wasn't a lot.
No.
Yeah.
So either this is really simple, or are we done now? Oh, let me just
we're
demo
done.
it.
Let's go home. Let's pack it up.
Let me demo it so people actually understand this is actually working. So here's a console app that is all happening on my laptop, with the exception, of course, of the calls that go to the large language models. And so I'm just going to be customer 13, which happens to be Seth.
That's me. Hi.
Right. And then I can ask about, like, does my compass work in South America? Right? And what's going to do is going to ask, it's going to kind of come back with a intent first and the product item number, and then it's going to give me an answer. Well, it doesn't work in South America. However, the accuracy, blah, 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 and so on, right? So we're done now?
No, I mean,
That's not working.
I feel,
I built a Copilot.
look, I mean, this is, Like if it was 1987 and this is the interface we give our customers, number one. Number two, you just ran it. Like how do you know it actually works? You just ran it one time. You got to run.
It worked one time.
Yeah, but how do you know this actually works with different prompts? Because I've heard that prompts are sensitive, kind of like me.
Yeah, so that's where prompt flow comes in.
Okay.
And prompt flow is a new feature of Azure Machine Learning, the Azure AI platform, and it allows you to do 4 things. One, it allows you to run your
prompts
chains in the cloud, right? So your LLM apps, to be precise. And you can use LangChain, you can use semantic kernel, you can use whatever framework you like, as long as it's Python-based.
Yeah.
Right? Secondly, it allows you to experiment with your prompts and your app, so it's settings of the app. So you can run bulks of data through it. You can run, you can measure outcomes, and then start to change your app or change your prompt, and then see how those changes impact that.
Well, I want to see it.
Output.
Can we get it in there? Let's do it.
There's 2 more things. I said 4.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Daniel. There's people watching.
I know.
Oh, gosh.
Are we in a rush? Yes,
Let's
we are. Anyway, so thirdly, you can deploy your app to an authenticated endpoint, which is like a feature of Azure ML and has been for a long time, pretty much since inception. But it allows you to do things like safe rollout, traffic split, and so on and so forth. And the 4th one is you can monitor the app as it executes, and then you can see how those metrics develop over time as your app is running.
Can you show us? I want to see.
You're
Promising a lot of stuff.
You're in a rush.
And the people are in a rush.
Yes. OK. So here is. Here are the prompt flows that I've built. So the one that represents our Copilot is this one here. It's actually big enough. Yeah.
It should be. It's loading.
Is it loading?
It's like he said it was a big prompt flow. I mean, I guess he wasn't lying. It's a huge one. Can we get those pipes unclogged out there, friends? Let's go back.
Maybe let's go to this one.
Oh, okay.
This is already loaded. Okay. So now, okay. So just to show you, it actually did work. This prompt flow contains the same 3 elements that we just saw before, right? So you got one, customer intent, and let me kind of make this a little smaller. You can see that it's basically, or it is very much the same code that I already showed you.
It's exactly the same code, isn't it?
Somehow I'm having trouble moving the divider. The product search, same thing, same code that you see here, where it just basically says product search, passing in. So those 3 things are unchanged. The part here is like you have some inputs at the top that basically show what inputs go into the prompt flow. So you have the customer info and the history, right? So it's basically your question and what you ordered and all those things we know about you. And then there's some outputs here, and here we're outputting the customer intent, and then the product context, and then the reply that actually we want to.
And this is cool because I know all of you are looking at these like these are all chat apps. They can be whatever you want. It's not just chat. It's It's like a large language calculator where you can do text stuff. And that's the thing that I want to make sure that impress upon you. It's not just chats. It's way more than that. And hopefully you remember that that's the case because it'll inspire you to do cool things, I think.
Yes. Yeah, so for example, you could also help a customer that you're just on the phone with and transcribe, and then, basically get that automatically into the system. So there's like limitless opportunities.
Right.
We're curious what you guys will build. So what I haven't done yet, is I haven't run this yet, right? So let's do that. So if I just run this, hit the run button, it's going to execute this flow with the inputs that I have here. So one input is here. That's, again, it's you and your data. And here is what you were asking. I'm planning a trip to Patagonia. And, will my
it finished.
thing work? Yeah, it is finished. It's rather quick. And here you can see now all the inputs and all the outputs of this thing. So
don't be shy. This is cool stuff. I know. This is the first time we've seen this. This is cool.
Okay.
Look, this is cool. I'm not saying, because they clapped a little. It was golf clappy stage. But the thing about it is that you did the same thing that you did before. You tested one prompt, but in a different place.
Yes.
So I want to make sure this works for the most of my prompts. How do I do this?
So there's a thing called bulk test
Oh,
up here.
we
So
didn't
if I want
find
to
it-
do
we didn't
more
find
than
this at all.
one, I can just hit the bulk test button here. There's a data set that I have prepared, which contains customer info and history, but a lot of it. Right?
It's the same input
Bunch.
from before, but multiples of them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. It also happens to have some ground truth. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Right? So, but these two are important, and then I'm just going to run this here. I'm not going to do evaluation yet, and then submit it. And so this is going to take a couple of seconds. So
Should we just stare at each other?
yeah, or make like super funny jokes? No, let's kind of
don't
go
have
here
any. Okay.
and see what the outputs look like. I ran this before.
Okay.
In the interest of time.
Okay.
Okay, so what we see now is like, okay, we got line number 0, and that's what the information is there, but the output was there. So that is all basically now, but loads of it, right? So now I can run a lot.
That's really cool, but Daniel, let me read the script here.
What do you have?
How dare you? No, wrong script. No, like the data scientist in me is looking at this and thinking, if I have 100 of these things, am I just supposed to read them and be like, that looks good, check, and then just do that? I feel like my data scientist is screaming at me to be able to score this somehow.
Yes. So you want some metrics?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That's what I want.
Let me show you
inside here.
Yeah. So let me
Okay.
go back to this guy and see how we can actually. Oh no, actually, let me go to the other flow, which is our deep dive into just the customer intent. So we
Okay.
just want to actually get like really better at detecting this customer intent.
So you're looking
right?
at the first part of the prompt
Exactly.
flow, just so
Yes.
we can show
Yeah.
testing.
Yeah, and so
get all
that
the
thing
other-
has its own flow, its own prompt here, as you can see. You're given a list of orders, and then it says like, okay, here's all the possible things that you could infer as an intent. Those 5 things, right? So this is a classifier for data scientists. It looks like a classifier. You get something, and you should assign it a class, right? And so yeah, so you can run a bug test on this one, where you use one of our evaluations. And as I said, we have some ground truth data here. We have like the real intent of this question, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to use an evaluation, and we use the classification accuracy evaluation for this one. Of course, now we have to tell prompt flow which one is the actual intent, so the ground truth. That's that one. And which one is the predicted one, or the one that the model came up with. And then I'm going to submit that, right?
And so this is like a standard scikit-learn style classifier that tells you this one, or this one, and we're just testing it like a regular machine learning thing, except it's a prompt we're testing.
Yeah, I mean, the classifier is based on ChatGPT.
Correct.
But the metric is just a standard, like how we're measuring this is like, okay, you got 2 things, are they the same? Correct. Are they not the same? Incorrect. And then, let me show you. So if you go here to the outputs,
Give it a second.
yeah, you can see now here, once I turn on the evaluations.
Eval, here we go.
Sorry.
Okay, here we go.
Product question, correct. Product question, correct. And then you see like some things like, okay, this guy's got extra quotes. I don't want that. That's incorrect, right? And so if you look at the aggregated value of that, we see like we get an accuracy of 61%.
Ooh,
like
that feels
out of
bad.
100, 61 were correct, but
That's not very good.
and the 39 were in.
That's not.
Yeah, that's not great.
Can you
right?
fix it?
Yeah, let's make it better.
Okay.
Okay, so for that, we have the ability to change the prompt and then run that one and compare it against the one that we had before, so we can see whether side by side this actually made any difference and made it better or worse.
I see.
Right? So for that, this prompt that we have here has a button here that says show variance. So I can open this, and then I see a second version unfold, which I prepared this, right? So we don't ship with always a better second version, unfortunately.
Right. Yes.
Right?
So you're saying, let me see if I understand. As we run these prompts, we can create variants of prompts in line to test against each other. Like variants, like that one show that had a lot of variants in it that I'm not going to say for legal reasons. Loki, it's the Disney show. Variant. They had Loki variant.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can't say it here, though.
Yes.
Okay.
I think my daughter...
So these are prompt variants, and they're supposed to test if changes make any effect on the output.
Exactly.
Okay.
So here I've got now a different one. This one actually uses this so-called one-shot pattern.
Okay.
Right? So it basically gives you an example, and then or the model rather, and then it tells the model, this is how you should answer with this, for this, right? This kind of stuff. And then it knows much better how to actually handle these things. So if we run this, it's another bug test, and this time we're actually going to say, yeah, turn the variance on. Again, same data set, and same metric, and
you got to. I got it's the same thing we did before, right?
Yeah. Just with the variance turned on now. And oh no.
Oops. No, I will get them all wrong.
Oh come on, intent.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm submitting this. That will take me to, I think that one. Yes, the run with variance. So if I look at the outputs here. You see there's like variant 0 and variant 1, right? So variant 0 has an empty intent, not so great, and that is obviously incorrect. The variant 1 got it wrong too, but it at least didn't give me something empty. So that's a step in the right direction. But if you look at the quotes here, it actually, let's variant 0, variant 1 for the same input did actually fix it.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and in the aggregate, let's look at that, and that shows that 72% is now correct. As opposed to 7.
And that's a lot better.
62, right?
So I'm not trying to throw like a wet blanket over all this stuff. This is classification. The whole Copilot, though, returns free-form text. How do we test that?
Yes. So it's all basically down to which metrics do you use and how do you calculate those.
Can you show us?
And it's actually a pretty hard problem to calculate what's a good answer to a question that somebody gave you. What's a good answer?
Yeah.
And for this RAG pattern, we actually have a particularly interesting way of measuring that.
Oh, do we?
Because by RAG pattern, you have context, and based on that context, you want the model to answer a question. And you want it to just answer based on that context.
Like the Eurovision Song Contest.
Exactly. Yeah, don't make up who won.
Yeah.
Just look at that, and if it's not in there, say you don't know, right? And that's what you can do with the RAG pattern, and we call that groundedness. So your data is grounded, and it's been mentioned in the keynote a couple of times as well. So what we can do is we measure how grounded is the answer, right? So let me show you how. And it's just gonna be, you're gonna find this very interesting. Let me go back to the other, obviously to the second step, because the groundedness we want to measure on the second step of the pipeline. And so this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, same data, but this time I'm going to use the groundedness evaluation, right? And the first thing this thing is going to ask me is like, hey, which model do you want to use?
That's weird. Why does it need a model to test groundedness?
Because the way that we calculate the groundedness is by using ChatGPT or an LLM, right? So
I wish I had a button there and go, ooh, maybe you can do it? Ooh. Now, I want to emphasize, because this probably was like, what the heck are they talking about? We use GPT-4 to look at the data that you're giving GPT-3.5 and the answer to score groundedness. And you're like, that sounds weird to me. It's like plugging in your plug into the other end somehow, but that's not how it works. Machine learning has advanced because of certain patterns, like generative adversarial networks, have you heard of those? Where models fight against each other to optimize each other, and we're using GPT-4. So if you're wondering, like, hey, they haven't talked about GPT-4 this whole time, turns out that we're using GPT-4 not for what you thought, but for scoring groundedness on the responses of the model, and this is all built into prompt flow, right?
Yeah, and the other reason is like we had to submit the talk.
Oh yeah, we had
talk
to submit
like way ahead of time.
Daniel, shh.
Okay, so here we go. This is the result of this run, and what you see in the end is like it gets the GPT groundedness score, and that score goes between 1 and 5. Right? 1 means it's completely unfounded, like what the model answered with is not founded in the context, in the product information that we gave it. Meaning, well, it says that the sleeping bag is okay for minus 45 Fahrenheit, but it just says like 20 Fahrenheit in the description. That would be very unfounded or ungrounded.
Yep.
Right? So and in this case, most of the answers were actually found to be
Very
grounded, right? There's like, for example, there's one here that isn't, you know, you would have to go now and investigate, like what's going on, why does it get taken off track? In aggregate, we're actually at 4.31, which isn't terrible out of 5, so it's a pretty decent score, but you can optimize. If you want to understand better how, Mernoush and Sarah, our colleagues, have a session in this very room at 4 o'clock where they're actually going to go in much more detail into groundedness and how to improve it with special prompt techniques.
And now it's important because it's not just about making prompts and shoving them into models. You got to do this responsibly. I mean, you have to have both. If you do not have both, you're not using these things responsibly, and that's why we've spent a great amount of effort and sleepless nights making not just prompt construction and evaluation important, but also the scoring, groundedness, metrics, and RAI stuff built into it as well, and you need both. So if someone's selling one and not the other, you should be careful because you could be exposing yourself if you do not at least start to look at what the thing is outputting in bulk. Does that make sense? Just a safety tip here.
Okay, quick look here just to make sure people see these ones.
Okay.
There's a few more metrics, and many of them are, the majority of them are actually driven by a large language model. So you can see what is the relevance of a question, of an answer pertaining to a given question. And so what is the similarity? We have a pairwise evaluation. So interesting stuff that you can use in order to measure the quality of the generations that you're producing.
Hold on. What if I don't like those metrics and I want to make my own prompt to measure my own stuff?
Yeah, you can just go and create a new one or just clone one of these. So if you want to go and say, oh, I look at this ADA simulation, similarity, I can just clone it and define it myself and then use it in my runs.
And that's even better because now, because you're using GPT-4, you can change the prompt that tests your other prompt. And then you could make a test for that one, and then you could, if you...
Yeah, and you could never, like, I mean, at some point you have to kind of bootstrap yourself.
That's right, And this is, I think, the coolest part.
The point is, these LLM-based metrics, you should also ground them in user-like eyes, human eyes at every so often, right? But it helps you to actually make progress and be able to iterate rather quickly without having to do like a lengthy, okay, let's go do like a labeling job by giving this to users, and then you have like 100 or 1,000 things that you need users to look at, and it takes a week, and it's very expensive. And so you can still do that, and you should do that from time to time, but way less often.
So a question.
Yeah.
They talk a lot about vector databases, and I know can you tell us a little bit how you could make that work here?
Very good point. What we saw here was the data was already in cognitive search, so there was no need for us to do anything. But if you are actually looking to kind of upload your data and you would just want to create a vector index, there's a feature in PromptFlow as well where you have a vector index here. You can create it. We ask you, it's the name, and then where's your data located? You can upload your local data or pull it from Git or from blob storage. In terms of which index to use, here you can use a FICE index, which is an open source tool, or a cognitive search index. That's what we support right now. It'll, basically create this all for you, and then you end up with a beautiful index that you can query in your RAG.
I love it. So this is cool, but this is all still in PromptFlow. How do I put this into my app?
That is very easy because PromptFlow, just like any other model or app in Azure Machine Learning, just deploys to an endpoint, right? So
are you going to tell me it's just one button?
It is. Let me show you the button.
We should have made that button bigger.
Here's the button. It says deploy on it, and when you hit deploy, it basically asks you a few questions, and you can reassign the connections here. You might be working with like one set of LLMs in testing, which since we start to allow you to kind of add content safety and so on and so forth, it actually makes sense to to play in one region or in one way during development, and then in production you might switch over to a different endpoint. And well, then it's all you do is you pick a compute, like a compute size, and then you
do you need like a huge GPU machine for this?
No, because all the hard work is actually done by the LLM, which is we're hosting, that's all hosted in the cloud.
And that's important, yeah.
Whereas these things are really very, very, yeah, you need like a really small CPU for it. So let me show the, do I have it here? Yeah, here's the test page for this thing that we deployed earlier. And so let me find a snippet. So again, what you actually put in there is exactly what you saw at the top of the prompt flow. It's customer info, and then a chat conversation where we then basically go and it's just in the same thing in the JSON format.
How cool is this?
Yeah.
I mean, there's the answer.
Yeah, there's the answer. Somewhere down there it says, yeah, the compass, how to compensate for the declination angle, here's how.
So we're running out of time. Who uses this endpoint stuff? I mean, is it reliable? Can people, what if I want to add another deployment? What if I want to do monitor? What if I want to do other things?
So you can do, this is a tried and tested feature of Azure Machine Learning for a long time. So this is very scalable. We run actually very, very large services off of it ourselves.
So let's finish up with one more thing, monitoring.
Yeah. Monitoring, exactly.
Yes, let's do that.
So here is the monitor that I've created for this, this service, or this endpoint. And so if I'm going to go to the monitoring page here, you can see that's the kind of page you get. You get some notifications here, and we're measuring and monitoring the groundedness over time, which means that if there's a dip like here, with like a data issue there, and so it was kind of predicting weird stuff, and so you can see that here, go in, fix it, and move on.
So this is cool because now that you've deployed it, this thing is still, it's like a puppy, it pees on the carpet sometimes and you got to clean it up. These things, as they're live, you can actually measure groundedness among other metrics as it's in production so that you can go back and fix your prompts if you need to, which is really cool. I mean, this is really good.
I think we got to close, right?
Oh, so
yeah, okay, he's giving us 1 minute, thank you. Okay, so last thing, model catalog. So we have this beautiful model catalog, was also shown in the keynote, and the OpenAI models are actually part of this. You can even fine-tune from here. So you can find a model, you can deploy it directly from here, or if you look for all the models that support fine-tuning, you can go here and then just right from here go fine-tune the model, select some data, upload it, and so on and so forth. I won't do it now, but you just kind of get the sense. You can then integrate it to normal Azure ML pipelines. You can run this in automation and so on and so forth.
And I want to be clear about this because notice that we've showed you how to fix prompts so that everything works, but there may come a time when, for example, the vocabulary of your organization, the model just doesn't know about it, and so it's not likely to show that token. Then you can do something like fine-tuning, which updates the weights in a really intelligent way with like low-rank approximation, et cetera. And we're very fast at it, too.
Exactly. And this is something that people that have used Azure Machine Learning know, we log metrics and so on, so you can kind of run multiple runs and then compare them. It's just all the normal machine learning goodness. Okay. The workflow connection, you got to help me out.
Yeah. Come on up, Greg.
Come up stage. Yeah, you have to
close this out,
anyways.
Buddy.
Yeah, I do have to close, but I wanted him to keep here because if you do deploy that model, you say fine-tune the OS model, then you put it on an endpoint. Now you want to use it in your prompt flow, you need to add that as a connection in your workspace.
He's talking about the connection.
Just show the connections
yes, okay. So you mean here the workflow connections?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes. So now you can actually call that model as a connection.
Yeah.
Not only that, but if you have the runtimes tab, for example, the way you get LangChain to work is you create a runtime with LangChain that runs LangChain. You can do the same thing with semantic kernel or whatever thing comes out this weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we got to go to slides again.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Good job.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thank you. We got a couple slides here. Hopefully we show those. Did we get the slides up here? Okay. Yeah. So this is prompt flow. I just want to call that out. And so basically, I want to say one thing. Like you see the graph on the right-hand side, and it looks like it's kind of WYSIWYG and drag and droppy and stuff like that. It's really that's read-only. It gives you the flow of it, but all the programming, and it is very much a dev tool, and the programming is on the left-hand side, and you actually write code in there. So that's important to know. And so if you want to play with this now, it'll come out in a couple weeks in public preview. But if you want to play with it now, just jump on this URL and sign up, and we'll get it for you. Enable it in a workspace for you. Yeah, a lot of cool things coming out. We have a responsible AI later today. We also have a few discussions that are coming. Yeah, it's just a fantastic week for us in the AI platform team. So really excited. Try to grab these if you can. And we have some links. Feel free to learn more, connect, explore, and join stuff. Cool. Thanks.